Jessica Alderson started SoSynced with her sister in 2021. Prior to that, she spent 5 years at Morgan Stanley as a research associate. She recently pivoted the business and is here to give a tell-all about lessons learned from the experience of starting up and what led to the business pivot. So Jessica, thank you very much for being here. The floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mark. So yeah, just want to give a bit of background before I go into the lessons learned from the pivot. So yeah, I'm the CEO and co-founder of SoSynced, which originally was a dating app that matched compatible personality types and is now a media company that focuses on dating, relationship, and personality content. And I'm also the chair of the Online Dating and Discovery Association. So we are the voice of the sector in terms of safety, regulation, collaboration. We recently hired a new CEO who I think is in the audience today, Simon Newman, and he is off to an incredible start. I can barely keep up. He's joined us, I think, three weeks ago and has done a lot already. There's a lot of regulation changing at the moment, so now is a great time to join. So if anyone's interested, please do get in touch. It's the odda.org, and Simon, maybe you can put your email address in the chat box. But yeah, so a bit more about SoSynced. I set up the company with my sister and we launched in January 2020, so just before COVID. And as I mentioned, first we were purely a dating app that matched compatible personality types. And it started off with the mission of helping people find meaningful connections. And we still stay true to that mission to this day, even though the company looks very different now. So yeah, we launched during or just before COVID. We raised our first round of funding in March 2021. And at first we were doing it alongside full-time jobs. The round of funding enabled us to do it full time. And we grew pretty quickly. I think we grew maybe 10 times in that year after raising the money. Yeah, and some of it was organic, some of it was paid. And then, we were basically planning on raising the next round of funding, which would probably have been a Series A. But that coincided with the downturn in the funding environment. And as probably a lot of people here know, funding is very hard to get as a dating app, even in the best of times. So we kind of, rethought the strategy, and we were like, right, how can we get users? How can we acquire users without a huge marketing budget? Like, how can we continue to grow? And we knew that there was a lot of interest in personality types from a kind of social media perspective. I think at one point, our Instagram posts were getting more likes than Tinder's. So there was clearly, a big audience there who were wanting to learn more. So we were basically like, right, what we'll do is build up this big audience of people who are interested in personality types, and then we'll convert them to dating app downloads. And then, we essentially kind of executed that strategy for really 2 years. And during that time, we basically realized that we were better suited to actually building the audience and running the media business rather than the dating app. So a few months ago, we decided to shut the dating app down. May 1st, I think we actually did that. And then around a month later, we launched a rebrand, which if you go to our website, you can see what the new company looks like, www.sosynced.com. And so I'll go through the lessons learned and kind of go more into that journey now. So I think the first lesson learned for me was that pivots aren't always intentional. And I guess we're probably in the minority here, but I just assumed that, a pivot was this very intentional thing, like, right, we are going to launch a new product or service, not something that ever happens organically. And like I said, it's probably, we are probably in the minority. Most pivots probably are intentional, but it is possible to have an unintentional pivot, which is what happened with us. The second learning, kind of following on from that, is that it made me realize that pivots aren't always because something is going badly or something is going wrong. Like, the dating app was actually profitable. It's just we saw better opportunities elsewhere. And in terms of, like, I guess, founder product fit, I think myself and my sister are better suited to running this media business. And it kind of made me realize that I'm sure there are, actually quite a lot of other companies out there who are launching new features or trying out new products and services. And then a feature, kind of it really takes off and that develops into its own product, or a product or service takes off and the company decides to invest more resources into that. So yeah, it made me realize that actually sometimes pivots can be positive, and it can actually be like, right, no, this is where we need to invest our resources and this is where we see our future, not always a kind of panic mode thing of, oh my God, what do we do now? Or, oh my God, we have to change this. So yeah, my third learning is that it's very hard to build two businesses with limited resources. And it's something that I would probably not advise doing. I think it worked out well for us. That was probably partly luck. It's not, there's a reason why Bumble and Tinder are primarily dating apps. Yes, of course, they have a social media presence. Yes, of course, they do some kind of broader media as well. But actually, that's not their core business. That takes up a very small portion of their workforce and their cost base. And doing that as a startup with limited resources is even harder. So yeah, that was my third learning. My fourth learning is, as probably a lot of people here know, dating is hard. The unit economics, there's not much profit margin on a user, even when everything is optimized very, very well. So taking a step back, it made me realize that there's not much margin for error. You have to have organic growth. You can't run a successful dating app if you don't have good organic growth. You have to have a reasonable acquisition cost. If you don't, you're going to be losing money. You have to have a good revenue per user. Again, if you don't have that, you'll be losing money. And I think, lots of industries are challenging in their own ways, but I think dating is more challenging than most in terms of, not having much margin for error and having to get everything very right and very optimized. And I think as a startup, that's tough when you've got, teams of literally hundreds of people at the bigger dating apps kind of optimizing all of these things and fine tuning and A/B testing all day, every day. And following on from that point, conversions are hard. And this is something that I've talked to other founders about. So yeah, when I say conversions, what I mean is you have an audience, converting them to what you want them to do isn't always easy. And I think, for us, people were coming to the website, people were coming to our social media accounts because they were wanting to learn. And then to try and convert them to a dating app download was hard, and a lot harder than we realized. And there's lots of conversion optimization you can do, but that won't always move the needle that much. And yeah, like I said, I've talked to other founders actually quite recently who have a similar kind of idea where it's like, oh, I'll build the audience, I'll build my, TikTok audience, for example, and then think about conversions later. But actually should probably think about them a little bit sooner, just to make sure you can convert them and that conversion rate is roughly in the ballpark that you're expecting. Otherwise, you might spend months or years building up this audience and then realize that actually you can't really do what you want to do with them. And then, yeah, my next learning, which follows on from that, is you can't A/B test your way to product market fit. And that's something that I guess was in my head for a while, and I can't take credit for phrasing it like this. This was in one of Andrew Chen's newsletters recently. But basically, you can, make, say, like 10, 20, maybe 30% changes through A/B testing in general. If you're very lucky, it can be more. But yeah, it's not going to move that needle massively. In terms of conversions, I think we ran probably over 200 A/B tests, maybe more. And I think we probably increased our conversion rate by maybe something like 50%. So it wasn't terrible, but it still wasn't in the ballpark that we needed to make the whole strategy work. My next learning is that investors tend to be understanding. I think when you're an early stage company pivoting, I think it is probably not a huge shock. It probably feels like a much bigger deal to the founders because, you eat, sleep, and breathe this than it feels to investors. I guess as long as you communicate it well and you have a good basis for doing what you're doing, maybe we were lucky, but we didn't have any issues there. So that was, I guess, a kind of a nice surprise in a way. And I think, we communicated a lot through the pivot, maybe even verged onto the territory of over communicating, but it worked well and we didn't have any difficulties. So, if in doubt, I'd probably venture down that road more than under communicating, which is probably a good rule for life in general as well. Then my next learning is, this is probably very obvious to definitely second-time founders, probably very obvious to some people, but maybe, I think I was a bit naive about this, but the idea of running a business can be very different to the reality. And, you can be very focused on this mission and very passionate about the mission, but actually the day-to-day activities of running a business can be somewhat removed from the mission, or at least on a personal level. And this is, like I said, quite obvious when you kind of think about it in practical sense in any way. But, I'm very passionate about psychology, about helping people find meaningful connections, helping people find their partners. And there was definitely some of that. We helped over 5,000 people find their partners, and a lot of those people, shared personal stories, shared personal photo albums and things like that. But obviously, like a lot of the day was more about managing people, managing the tech team, hiring people, the kind of deciding, or, deciding the product roadmap, things like that. So I think, this new business that we're running is definitely a lot more of what I was looking for, I guess, in that kind of first business. So that's great that we have got there, and it's still all very aligned with the original mission. My next learning is to keep contractors fully in the loop as well. The pivot wasn't a big deal internally. We didn't fire anyone. There wasn't any major role changes, and that's because it did happen very organically over the course of 2 years. So it wasn't like, I guess, deciding to shut down the app, that was a slightly bigger deal internally, but the whole pivot in general was pretty smooth and organic. But I didn't fully communicate that to all the external people involved. And when I announced the pivot on LinkedIn, one of our contractors got in touch and was like, oh, I see, you're shutting down the app. It's been great working with you. I'd love to work with you in the future if it's of interest. And I was like, oh God. It's like, no, like, business as usual, pretty much. We still, want to work with you, and everything's like normal from your perspective. But I realized that because it felt so organic and like non-eventful really to us, that I kind of just assumed that everyone who was, somewhat involved in the day-to-day operations kind of felt that too. So yeah, that was like, I guess, an omission on my part to just, I had mentioned it before, but just not fully explained it, and should have handled that a bit differently. My final learning was that shutting something down doesn't have to be dramatic. It's not something that we'd ever done before. And I guess, a caveat here is if you're shutting a company down and you have investors and they're clearly going to lose money, then yeah, it is probably going to be a bit more dramatic. But I guess more if you're like, shutting down a product or a service, that in itself doesn't have to be, I guess, very difficult. In my head, I was kind of dreading the process because there were a lot of unknowns, there were a lot of uncertainties. I was concerned that we're going to have huge legal costs, that we had hundreds of thousands of users, that there were going to be a lot of users who were not happy or who had issues or who lost matches and they hadn't seen that the app was shutting down, things like that. But actually, we didn't have any difficulties at all. We just had lots of nice emails and had people, emailing in saying they got married and things like that. So it was, yeah, a very nice surprise, to be honest. And yeah, you don't get that many positive, nice surprises when you're running a business. So that was great. So yeah, they are my 10 learnings from the pivot. Yeah, I don't know if anyone has any questions. Let's see.
Thank you, Jessica. I've got a couple of questions for you. Let me just adjust the brightness on this camera. If you've got any questions, please put them into the Q&A and we'll bubble them up and vote them up. And then, at a future session, I'm gonna figure out, actually I can do that here. Let's try this. Let's see if this button works. I've got a few new buttons on this new version of AirMeet. So
Yeah.
let's try that, see what happens. Oh, good. Okay, that's good. I was thinking that actually if it's someone else, I can actually have you join. There we go. Victor's got a question. Great. I'm wondering if I can have people actually come to the stage and ask their questions. But let's run with this. So, who would you consider your competitors for the media business?
Yeah. So, I mean, when you're thinking about kind of big competitors, I would say Psychology Today. Then there are specific kind of smaller, I guess, companies that focus on personality types, some smaller companies that focus on dating and relationships. So, yeah, but I guess if you're kind of like trying to get an idea of what the business looks like, I think, yeah, Psychology Today would be the best example.
Great. That's a great one to go after. I see you've
Yeah,
got a beautiful, clean design here, and you've got the personality test,
yeah.
which would be quite viral, I imagine. People are going to want to share that. How are you monetizing, might I ask?
Yeah, at the moment it's through display ads. So essentially companies pay to advertise on the website. So it's like, I don't know, if you go onto the Daily Mail, you'll see display ads, lots of media companies do monetize through that. Some have subscription models as well. That's something that we're not particularly wanting to explore at the moment. Kind of what we're doing is working well. But yeah, we're also just launched the rebrand in June, but probably as of September, when kind of just wanting, like, I guess, things to kind of settle a bit, but then we'll think about partnerships as well. So we have different ways of promoting companies on the websites through like banners and widgets and things like that, sponsored newsletters. We'll be looking at partnerships, yeah, as of then.
And are you taking advertising from the dating industry?
Yes, we are now. That was something that we weren't doing before. But yeah, pretty much as we launched the rebrand, because we'd shut the app down, we started running ads for the dating industry as well. And to be honest, that will probably be our number one industry that we focus on. And it's, for the media business, it's good that we don't have the dating app and there isn't that conflict of interest, because, our content is about dating, relationships, and psychology. So yeah, they, I think, will be our kind of main client or partner.
So what platform are you using? Is it direct, or are you going through Google AdSense, or how can people approach you and get their ads live and get approved onto the
Yeah,
platform?
at the moment it's run through a third party like Google AdSense. There's like a few equivalents, different ones I think just work better for different companies. But yeah, I mean, we do also have, I guess, like what we'd call like a widget in all of the blogs that we do, all of the articles. So yeah, if anyone does want to explore kind of running ads through that, then you can reach out to me. I'll put my
Cool. I was just going to
email.
ask, what's the email to send to? Because I bet there's 10 people in the room
Yes.
right now saying, I need to do that. That sounds good. You've
Yeah,
got some good
exactly.
traffic here. 1.1 million I'm seeing on SimilarWeb. Is that about accurate?
Um,
1.1 million monthly visits.
yeah, it ranges like, from 500,000, 1 million. That's the kind of range.
Right.
It's, just depends on kind of, a lot of different things within the month. But yeah, it's a good number of their like unique monthly visitors. So yeah,
And
we have
let me
a
also
good
have a look.
audience.
Your geo appears to be 32% US, 7% UK.
A bit more than that. It's
Okay,
about, I think, just over 40% US,
great.
and yeah, UK is the next biggest. So yeah,
And Germany
our
and Canada and India. Okay,
yeah,
great.
exactly. Yeah, at the moment, all our articles are in English, so
Yeah.
it's mostly English-speaking countries. But yeah, that's something that we might explore in the future, is translating them.
I'm also looking at this personality test, and what a business that comes to mind. Some of the old timers here might remember eMode and Tickle. They're businesses worth looking into. When I think about your competitors now, I also think about your competitors in the past. And Tickle
Yeah,
got to some crazy, crazy scale, literally like 15 years ago. And they asked
yeah,
lots of tests. They had lots and lots of different tests. You can kind of learn a lot about yourself, and then you
yeah,
kind of send those to friends, and then they'd come in. It was quite viral in that respect. And they also
exactly.
had a product called Tickle Marriage. I think it's all on OPWs within our frame of reference. Yeah, so you could probably find Tickle in the list of companies. If you go to the right-hand side, any of you actually here, one of the great little secrets of OPW is if you want to research a company that's quite a few years ago, you can actually go to research on the right and then companies, and you can find that company and see all their news. So you can kind of just get ahead, we definitely covered them. We were talking like 15 years
Yeah,
ago, but we covered them quite a bit.
interesting. Yeah,
Tickle Marriage. It was interesting because first it was all personality profiling, and then they had this dating product, and then they had this, so they went the opposite route. But I think there's a tremendous business around just profiling, and it's quite
yeah,
yeah, I could see, a lot of the dating industry is gonna be interested in as you build this up. That's
yeah.
quite viral.
And we do think
But
it's like a really core part of building a healthy relationship is knowing yourself.
yeah,
It's really like, it is the foundation that everything else is built upon. So even though like in some ways personal growth and dating and relationships, or like self-awareness and dating and relationships feels different, it is, you can't really differentiate them
yeah,
fully, because they are part of the same ingredients to get that
yeah.
healthy,
Dovetail,
amazing
great.
relationship. Yeah.
Um, so Victor's asking about KPI. What are the main KPI from the business? And I had a question about that. You mentioned about acquisition costs. What kind of acquisition cost were you coming in at, might we ask?
Yeah, sure. So our main KPI now is unique monthly visitors for
Yeah.
our website. About 2 months ago, we launched a YouTube channel to essentially convert a lot of the content that we have on the website to video format, and that's going well. So I guess kind of it's really watch time that we focus on with YouTube. You can, views to some extent, but watch time is the key metric there. And then, yeah, do you mean acquisition cost for the dating app?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we did, we weren't like actively marketing for, I guess we haven't been for the past 2 years. It was just growing organically. The acquisition cost we ended up at, I think, was around $1.50. which was low. I don't know if we could get that now. That was when TikTok had, I think, pretty good acquisition costs, and I think they've gone up a lot since then. So yeah, we were quite lucky with that. But yeah, these things change very quickly. And like I said, I don't know if we'd be able to get that acquisition cost now.
Gotcha. Okay. Oh, right. Here's a question I'd like to ask you. In fact, I'll show it on the stage. There we go. Why not? Let's use this new button. How can the people in this room help you with the new Succinct? What questions do you have for us?
Yeah, I mean, do our personality test, send it to other people. I think that's one of the best ways to get people engaged. Kind of always say, what's something that everyone universally is interested in, and that's themselves. I don't mean that in a bad way. It's good to be interested in yourself, at least to an extent. So yeah, I think sending people the personality test is one of the best ways. And I guess, yeah, if anyone's interested in partnerships as well, like I said, probably be doing them from September, but would be good to start those conversations sooner rather than later, really.
All right. Oh, the ad partnership is the easy one. You've got advertising inventory. We've got a need for datas, right? That's an easy one. Anything else that springs to mind? Any other kinds of companies that you're looking for? Kinds of deals that you're looking for?
Yeah, I mean, so dating, and then I guess kind of anything to do with like self-awareness, self-improvement, personal development, that kind of bucket of companies as well. It's I guess with like education around yourself and others and building connections. So yeah, it's people who are really, I guess, looking to be the best version of themselves, as cliche as it sounds, and looking to build great relationships.
Okay. Let's see if we've got any more questions. Good stuff, Jessica. We really appreciate your time today. Thank you very much, and your story and your opening up about this journey. Let's do some networking, shall we?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure, always. Thank you, Jessica. Much appreciated.
Bye.
Thank you. All right. So we've got about, there's no limit. We go to networking and you can hang out and have a chat with everybody that's in the room, and I'll let this run out. Thank you very much, everyone here. And thank you very much to our esteemed sponsors, namely Parship Me Group and Real Me and Dating Through Curiosity. Thank you very much. LTR 33, game on. Thank you.